I just want to welcome JP Mbenenge again.
Thank you, CJ.
And Premier, we welcome you too. Good evening, I'm sorry, Ms. Papendorp.
Good evening, Chief Justice.
Are you well?
I'm fine, thank you.
We apologize that you've had to wait this long.
No, it's fine.
Yes. After getting your legal qualifications, what did you do first?
So I first did my articles. Thereafter, I started practicing when I finalized my articles for my own account for a number of years, as well as for a Jewish firm in Paarl when I got married and moved there. Then I was practicing for quite a while under my own name. And when I moved to Queenstown, I started acting in a special project with the National Prosecuting Authority run at that time. They called it the backlog courts. It was the first stages of the backlog courts. Then I got appointed as a magistrate in the district court in Lansane. I got a transfer to Queenstown, and I've been in Queenstown since 2003, first in the district court, and since 2010 in the regional court, sir, as a magistrate.
For how many years did you practice as an attorney?
So 11 years all in all.
And you were in the district court for how many years as magistrate?
As a magistrate from 2002 to 2010, make it 8 years.
8 years?
8 years, yes. And this is my 9th year in the regional court.
Your 9th year in the regional court?
That is correct.
If you add up all your acting stints, for how long did you act?
So if I remember correctly, the previous time was highlighted that I acted all in all for 8.5 months approximately.
8.5 months. Yes. Was it okay, 8.5 months. And are you confident that that afforded you the necessary experience coming from the magistracy coupled with your practice as an attorney for this position? Did it prepare you enough for this position?
So yes, I'm confident it did. As I've previously indicated, it's always nice to have more acting experience, but I'm confident that with my background, which I do have in the private practice, as well as as a presiding officer the past 18 years, I am confident I'm well equipped to move on to becoming a judge, if it so suits this panel.
Yes. And was it a relatively smooth transition from the regional court to the High Court, or was it particularly challenging?
So no, I found it a very smooth, or shall I say relatively smooth, move from the regional court to the High Court. As you are well aware, in the regional court, we deal predominantly with exactly the same cases, criminal work, as in the High Court. The regional court deals with 90% of the serious violent crimes in our country. So I found no difficulty in moving over from the regional court to the High Court. The same as far as the civil work is concerned, although our jurisdiction is different in the regional court than in the High Court, and certain matters in the High can only be dealt with in the High Court, not in the regional court. My experience many years ago as a practicing attorney in both the lower courts as well as in the High Court, as well as my years' experience as a jurist and as a presiding officer, which requires yourself to study your topic when you're dealing with a specific issue, specifically where you have not dealt with the type of topic before, has enabled me to smoothly make that transition and deal adequately, I would presume, with the civil matters as well, which I did adjudicate while I was doing my acting stints.
Yes. And on average, how long does it take you to produce a reserve judgment?
Are you talking civil, criminal, both of them?
Each.
So my criminal judgments, I am always prepared. If I hear argument today, the next day in just about each and every case of mine, I've given judgment. So I'm virtually the day later ready to proceed with judgment. And then with sentence the same day, later the day, or the next morning, and I finalize the case. My shortest judgment, which I've reserved for civil, was 2 weeks. This is now specifically where there was post applications. The longest was, I think, just over 3 months, if I remember. But all of my civil judgments, and I've given well within the required period of time, as far as I'm aware.
JP?
Thank you, CJ. You once appeared before this forum and you made a concession that you needed more exposure in civil litigation in the High Court. Is that not so?
Yes, JP, I in fact did say so. It would be nice to have more exposure always. Though, as I've just mentioned, I do feel confident that I am able to deal with whatever civil matter is thrown at me, should I get the appointment. But it would always be nice to have more exposure.
Yes.
You can never have enough of it.
And you are also on record as having been involved in 4 civil trials in the High Court
Yes, that would be more or less the number, sir.
and 4 weeks of motion court.
Yes.
And since then, you have not had further exposure in the High Court.
No, sir, I've not been acting since my last interview.
Did you pen any judgments in the civil cases in which you were involved? The 4 civil trials that you were involved in?
Yes, I did, but I've given them, if I remember, the one a month and a half after I've postponed, I've heard the evidence, and the other one just under 3 months.
How many judgments did you pen?
Just 2. No, sorry. It was not just 2, it was 3. It was 3.
Yes. And at the particular point when you acted in the High Court, was there any judicial case flow management being implemented?
So the only place where I dealt with judicial case flow management was in the criminal section under Judge Chetty in PE. I've attended to the case flow management for him one specific term when he was busy with the Padiaki case, which you are all well aware of. Then, as far as civil case flow management is concerned, unfortunately not. The only time I really got to deal with it was when, if I remember correctly, you were still acting at the time when I was for a week in Umtata. And I worked under Judge Alkema, and I attended to case flow management for civil work, civil trials, and in Umtata itself.
Was that in 2017?
That is in 2017, June, it was the last week of the term in June 2017, sir.
So that was the only extent to which you were involved in judicial case flow management, particularly in civil cases?
In the High Court, sir.
In the High Court?
In the High Court.
Yes, my question relates to the High Court,
yeah,
of course.
No, only in the High Court, sir.
Yes.
That's correct.
Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, JP. Premier?
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good evening to the fellow commissioners. Good evening
Good day,
as well
sir.
to you, ma'am. It's the last time you were here, there was a matter that was canvassed with you extensively, a matter to do with partly head matters. Can you just recall for us what's your experience since that time?
Sure, sir. It's always nice to go back and to reflect on things that has happened. One perceives things in a certain fashion, and then you are forced to look at it in a different fashion as well. And I realize in hindsight, after my interview the previous time, that I was indeed incorrect to come and act at times when I had so many parties. If I remember, Mr. Jeffries at a point out there was 12 parties which I had when I went to act. I realized that was a mistake. Since then, I've actively worked to change the way I work in my court, specifically to limit my partlieds. I have successfully done so, not just for the sake of going to get acting stints in the High Court, but it assists me in my own court, in my own case flow management in my courts as well. I've got extremely busy criminal court in the circuit court where I am presently. And I started working on a continuous role. And I found that I finalized much more cases to start with in a much shorter period of time, and the results was much better in that sense. And also, I managed to keep my partyards very low. I think more or less the most of the time since I've been interviewing in October 2017, my outstanding partyards were 4. I know at the stage last year, I'm talking about my criminal partyards. At the stage last year, towards October, November, it shot up to about 9. The reason being simply because of statutory requirements with child justice cases where we're compelled to get pre-sentence reports. So it was circumstances out of my control. I had quite a lot of child cases at that point in time. The same I did with my civil work, sir. I work very well together with my civil lawyers, which appears before me. I've also started working on a running role or a continuous role, as you stated, and I am confident that now I've got my parties completely under control as I'm sitting here today. I've got one criminal matter that is still a partyard. I've got another criminal matter which they literally just have to address me on and which I must give judgment. And I've got a civil matter which they're finding heads of arguments within the next 2 weeks and address me. Then I should only have the 3. I've got 2 more criminal matters which is, we call it dormant. The one matter is outstanding since 2014. The accused has been at large since then. I've also have a juvenile which I need to sentence, which went astray towards January this year, which I also can't finalize because they have not rearrested the accused. And then I also have a partyard in the High Court still in Port Elizabeth, also coming from around about November 2017, the reason also being that accused has run away. He has not been arrested since then. It was also the stage where the parties had to address me and I had to give judgment. So it's all at very advanced stages.
The reason I've asked that is that in the questionnaire, I think the same question was asked, and you merely reflected that you do have those partly head matters. Did you not think of spelling them out there when you were responding? Do you remember your response?
So that must have been an oversight on my side.
All right. No, thank you very much. No other questions, Chief Justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Premier. I've misplaced my notes. I thought I saw a hand here. Was I? Yes, Commissioner Norman.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Ms. Papendorp. In Queenstown, the regional court, you at the regional court, are you heading that court?
No, sir. Sorry, no, ma'am. I'm not heading the court. We don't have a regional magistrate headed. We call it a case allocator.
Yes.
I'm not the case allocator for our area. I'm just one of, like our case allocator, one of the regional magistrates there.
How many magistrates are there?
We are 3 permanent magistrates and 1 acting regional magistrate there.
Yes. I'm not sure whether the Premier was saying that you should have listed, I wouldn't want to repeat the question, that you should have listed the partly head matters in paragraph 17 of your questionnaire. Is that what the Premier was asking?
I think that is what the Premier has suggested, ma'am. It must have been an oversight on my side.
No.
I do apologize.
Yes, let's just talk about that oversight.
Yes.
The question says, are there any partly head matters which you should bring to the attention of the Commission? And the question is, says, and your answer to that?
Sorry, ma'am. I would
sorry,
have said
page 15.
yes.
Page 15.
Page?
Page 15, paragraph 17.
I have maybe said I have partly at matters in an advanced stage of finalization, ma'am.
Yes, no. It says, if so, please furnish particulars.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no.
Yes.
I must apologize. I must also advise at the stage which I did complete it, I was quite pushed for time because time was running out as well. I do apologize for that oversight.
But do you understand then what that means is that...
I should have listed it.
Yes, I understand that, but yeah. What that means is that this body is not in a position to assess those part head matters because you have not listed them.
I understand.
You have not told this body as to, this is the part head, it started this month, it finished, or I'm at this stage. So this is just a generalization of what's happening with them, but this commission is not in a position to appreciate the extent and the actual number of the partly head matters.
I do agree with you.
Yes.
With your
so
session.
in total, from what you've been telling us, I was counting when you were mentioning orally, I counted 5. Would that be a correct number?
Ma'am, 5, that's correct, 2 of which I've got no control over because the accused is at large. The
What
one
hap-
since 2013.
Yes. What does the Act, doesn't the Act make provision for instances like those? If you have a parthead matter since 2010 and you're waiting for an accused person, isn't there a process that you must follow? You,
No,
do you
ma'am,
just
I
leave
have
it?
to wait for the accused to be arrested. I can't proceed with judgment or sentence if he's not present.
No, what I mean, what steps are you taking? I don't think you just keep it there.
No. The police is on the national. They've got a program where they circulate the names of all the accused that has been at large for a number of time. I know the people's names are on those lists, and I am patiently having to wait for the police to arrest the person, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. Now let's go to page 211. What do you understand, looking at that page, what do you understand when someone talks about access to justice?
Access to justice is everybody's got the right to have their case went before a court of law or their dispute went before a court of law.
So is that your only understanding of access to justice?
In a nutshell, yes.
Yes. And then you have a judgment there that is in Afrikaans.
Yes.
Did you translate this judgment so that a person who doesn't understand Afrikaans can understand what you mean in that judgment?
I did not translate the specific judgment, ma'am. While I was in Port Elizabeth, this is one of the PE High Court cases, I found myself in a predicament. Although I'm Afrikaans speaking, most of the cases in Port Elizabeth are dealt with in Afrikaans at that point in time. It's before the CJ has issued the directive that the language in our courts will be English.
Yes.
And I had to write an Afrikaans judgment and present it as such. So unfortunately, no, I did not translate it into English.
Yes. And after this judgment in Afrikaans, the one that you have here, going forward, have you penned any other judgments in Afrikaans, or was this your last one?
No. There was other judgments in Port Elizabeth specifically, ma'am.
Yes.
Criminal matters which I've handed down in Afrikaans.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief Justice.
Thank you, SC. Advocate Mbofu?
Yes, I see you said your civil experience is limited.
No, sir, I won't say my civil experience is limited. I deal with civil cases basically on a daily basis in the regional court. As you know, the regional court got civil jurisdiction
Yes.
in 2010. And I'm also the case allocator for the whole area, which we serve amongst all the circuit courts as well, which we do for my area.
Okay, good. So, well, right. Can you then, because I saw something that I wasn't sure of in one of your judgments. One of the most frequent tools used in the civil courts, as you know, is the Plascon-Evans rule. Mm-hmm. What is your understanding of that rule and its importance in motion proceedings?
So you catching me a bit offhand here.
Yes.
It's the one thing which I can't answer you straight off the cuff.
Thanks.
It's one of those things which comes up a lot in the civil cases in the High Court, and which I will have to reacquaint myself with.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Papendorp. You are excused.
Thank you, sir.